Boys and girls, we are going to learn how to watercolor paint. You are going to need a watercolor set, a brush, a container of water, some crayons or a crayon, a wash rag or paper towel. Let's learn together. Here we go. Hello, boys and girls. We are going to be working on a simple watercolor painting of our hands, traced and outlined with crayon. I'm using a black crayon. You can use any color crayon you'd like. I'm going to turn this light on. All right, boys and girls. First step is tracing our hands. Now in this activity, we are going to trace our hands, maybe a little bit of our wrist too. So what you're going to do is press up against the edge of your hand and go around each finger. 1, 2. You're trying to press as close as you can to the edge of your hand. And I'm on the 4th finger and the thumb. If you have trouble tracing your hands, you can ask someone at home to help you. I'm going to try my left hand. That's tough. Press 1, my thumb. And you notice when I laid down my hand the second time, I am overlapping. I'm drawing onto my other hand. And each little section I create, I am going to paint in a different color. And my pinky, and all the way to the edge of the paper. Maybe I'm going to add a part of my hand here, just my fingers here. I'm going to copy and trace my hand 4 times. These are just my 4 fingers. Here's some 5 fingers and 5. Right here I'm just going to just squish my fingers together so I get the outside outline shape of my hand. All right, boys and girls, once you've traced your hands on your paper, you can write your name on the bottom. And I'm going to write Miss Crow, and just Crow. And I can set that off to the side. Now, when using watercolor sets, you are going to need 1 watercolor set, a container of water, an old rag maybe, or some napkins, and of course your paper. And to make watercolors work properly, you will need to add a little water by dripping the water on top of each color. You need to add water onto your watercolor sets to loosen the paint within the set. It won't work with a dry brush. You have to have water in your watercolor set. So I'm just sort of lifting and moving. Uh-oh, see, I got this one. I got the green in here and I don't want it to be green. Oh, so I'm just going to wipe that off. Oh, that's kind of a mess. Be careful with these, they're messy. Just going to drip on the top. All right, when you're doing a watercolor, you want to start with your lightest colors first so your water stays as clean as possible for as long as possible. So wherever I want a little bit of white paint, this set has white. Actually, I think I'll start with yellow. I'm going to drip some more drops into my yellow. Lightly tickle the paint, lift, and move it over. And I'm going to choose a few sections of my paper to make yellow. And I'm going to dip in again. I'm going to paint this yellow, and this, and all the shapes that I created when I overlap my hands and trace them. So I think I might make this hand yellow. And I'm going to the edge of the paper. And I think I'm going to add a little more yellow. Be gentle with your brush. You always want to be gentle with the bristles on your brush. These are the bristles. They're like tiny little hairs. I'm going to wash my brush and show you more closely. You're just going to softly rub your brush on the bottom of your container, wipe on the edge. These are the bristles, the little hairs. And you have to keep them nice and straight. You don't want to bang them on your paper. It ruins the bristles. It pushes the bristles and little hairs out and ruins the brush. So we're not going to ruin our brush. It's the most important thing. You're going to lift your brush out. It should be a little wet. I washed it, going into a new color. Before I go in a new color, I always wash my brush. And now I'm going to add a little orange. And I'm picking out all these little different sections to do in different colors. Let's see, I'm going to go in and have a little more orange here, going between these. Now when a different color touches, like when this orange and yellow touch each other, because they're both wet, they're going to kind of move into each other, which is kind of nice. And I think I'm going to stop here and go into my orange carefully, not bending my brush or ruining my bristles on the end of my brush. This part is going to be orange. I think this little sliver. And I'm going to choose another color. So I'm going to wash my brush carefully. I'm going to wipe the edge off. You can always wipe it on your napkin. And I'm going to choose a new color. It's important that you don't bang your brush on the side of your cup. You could knock your cup over, or you could splatter little dots of paint everywhere, and we don't want to do that. So I'm just going to wipe on the edge and pick my red. So I'm going from light colors to darker colors. And I'm going to go in between all these little sections of my drawing. A little bit more red. Maybe over here, trying to create colors within shapes. And I'm going to wash my brush again before I go in a new color. Once you wash your brush, you wipe the edge, and you can choose a new color. And I'm going to do light green here, and I think I'm going to paint in here. Maybe, I sort of switched here. You can see I stopped this line because I wanted to continue with a different color. And that's a great technique. You just sort of stop where you're painting and start something new when it's a little dry. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit more light green. So I think I'll make this area light green and go up to the top. And you see I made a line here, so I'm going to paint over here with a different color. And I'm going to go in between these fingers. And I'm keeping going. I need more paint in my brush. And I'm being very careful with my bristles. There we go. I'm going to wash my brush again by adding it to the water, wiping carefully on the edge. Now I'm going to pick, I think I'm going to try this beautiful violet color. I'm going to fit it in here. And maybe right here, these little parts that have created these new shapes. Maybe up here. And carefully, do you see how I'm using my brush in a very soft, gentle manner? I'm not mashing it down, I'm not breaking the edge. And like a little violet over here. And over. A nice way to move your brushes back and forth like this. Never smashing, never pushing hard. And by the end of your lesson, you should have a nice brush. Here, let me clean this again. That has a tip still. It's not bent up. Okay, and I think I'm going to finish with this hand and finger, and I'd like a new color, so I'm wiping my brush off after washing it, and I'm going to pick this blue. And here we go, back into the painting. You can always add a little bit of water to your paint. Makes it lighter. Can you see that? This has more paint in it. This has less paint in it. Has a lot of water. Might go back into the color. And I'm carefully going around these fingers. And oh, it's almost finished. Back and forth with my brush carefully. And there we go. And I'm going to wash my brush. Now, boys and girls, it's important not to move your brush on the same spot over and over and over and over. It starts to rip the paper. You'll almost see like little spots of the paper falling apart. Washing my brush again. And I'm going to do this hand, and I'm going to choose a different color. I think I'm going with brown. You can see my water is getting full of colors. And now that this area is drying nicely, it'll be a lot easier to paint this section. And oh, I see one little part of a finger I didn't paint. I'll have to add something there to back into my paint. And remember, always wash your brush between colors. And here we go. I'm going to wash my brush, carefully rubbing it on the bottom of the cup, wiping the edge, keeping the tip nice. And I think I'll do this in, I haven't used green. Dip into green. I have a clean brush. Nice. Wash my brush again because this has to be a new color or a different color. I could use this light green over here. Well, maybe not because I use light green. Or I could use red or yellow. I think I'm going to pick purple. Dip into purple. And here we go. Into the water to get a little more water in my brush. And I think I didn't see I had 2 more shapes to do. So I'm going to wash my brush and choose a different color. How about blue? Right here. And one more. Wash my brush. Wash it out really well. You can wipe it on the tissue. And I think I'm going to end with this one. That looks like it's green plus blue mixed together. Yeah, a little bit different. Yeah, here we go. Wash my brush one final time. Wipe it off. Take the paper towel or a napkin and dry it and check my brush. Looks great. I can use this again. And I've finished my painting. Thank you, boys and girls.